G'day, guys. I am up and about. I am full of energy. I apologise. It's nearly 48 hours, or in fact, it is 48 hours since we pulled the pants down of the Gold Coast Suns at Marvel Stadium. I had not done a review, but I am super excited to do this one. I really am. I just thought it was... Let's get stuck into it. Let's get stuck straight into it. I just thought this was a comprehensive and clinical four-quarter performance by our boys, and I loved what I saw. Aesthetically pleasing on the eye, except for that second quarter. I did feel like that second quarter was like two teams, middle-of-the-road teams going at it and really battling away. Our synergy from our mids into our forward line was just horrendous, and it needs some alignment at halftime, which we did. But in terms of effort and energy and enthusiasm and concentration, this was a really pleasing effort by our lads, and I was very happy. I was very happy, not jumping out of my seat type of happiness. It wasn't like one of those ones where you know, the final siren goes and you were just all over the place, like just so excited. And that was probably more to do with the quality of the opposition. And that's no disrespect to the Suns, but we know what they're like. And I mentioned in the preview, and as much as the week before against the Sydney Swans was a predictable performance, wasn't it, on the road against the top team? This was predictable as well. And we can't sit here and say this wasn't predictable. But we can say that there were things in this game that were really pleasing to see. Things that we've been probably crying out for that we could see. But what really gets me excited is instead of carrying on like pork chops about this 29-point win, and let's face it, it should have been more. I mean, fucking hell, we dominated. Absolutely dominated. We win by 29 points at one stage out to 47, and to only get 2% on the percentage, oh, yeah, but I liked what I saw, but I am fucking so excited about facing Port Adelaide on Thursday night. And I didn't realise that game was on Thursday night. I thought it was going to be another week, you know, 7-day break. But it's a 5-day break for both teams. It's a short turnaround. But you know what? We've been belted by the Sydney Swans in a really poor display, yeah, which was somewhat predictable. Then we went home and played really well. It's hard to judge the quality of the opposition. It really is, especially with the consistency of someone like the Gold Coast Suns. So that was predictable. Now, instead of facing Port Adelaide here at Marvel Stadium, which is a lot safer, isn't it? It's safe, Marvel Stadium, or the MCG. We get to go to Port Adelaide. We get to go to the Adelaide Oval against the top 4 team who had a big win on the weekend, who beat Geelong down at the Cattery recently, who are in reasonable form, but can be beaten at the Adelaide Oval. It's not like they that is just fucking such a fortress for them. But we get to see whether any of this, all the positives out of this, we get to see whether it actually stacks up. I think that's fucking fantastic. Sorry about the fucking. I think that's what makes me so more excited than just the 29-point win, which is important. We go back inside the top 8. But we're going to see if it stacks up. I think the most positive thing out of the last, say, 6 or 7 weeks has been we're switched on in games. I think we are switched on. The way we start games is excellent. The way we started against the Gold Coast Suns was excellent. The way we started against Sydney was excellent. The way we started against Melbourne was excellent. Attitude is good. Feels like the attitude is good. I don't think attitude's going to beat us, okay, when we play Port Adelaide. What will beat us is whether we are good enough, whether our system, whether our players stack up, whether this okay, whether what we did to the Gold Coast Suns can stack up against better quality opposition. And that's footy, isn't it? You play someone better, it's going to be a lot closer and a lot tighter. But fuck, how exciting. And instead of getting such carried away with this, other than seeing it and going, yeah, this was a really good performance, we did so much right and it looked really good. Blink the eye, click the finger, we're going to Port Adelaide. We're going to Port Adelaide to see if any of this is actually real. Okay? All right, let's have a look at the game, man. Let's have a look at it. First term, fantastic. Great energy. Probably didn't get the nourishment, as as Michael Voss says. Who's Patrick Voss? Is there a footballer, Patrick Voss? Anyway, Michael Voss sometimes says didn't get the nourishment. I thought we dominated. Mids were unbelievable. Unbelievable. TDK. But that first quarter, the run and there. We had fucking Ollie Hollins, who just was absolutely everywhere. And we just looked on. We looked on, and have a look at my thumbnail, the blue steel. We looked like we were so focused. And I think that's been consistent for the whole year. And then, I don't know about you guys, but this was probably my only period of the game, and I just thought, oh yeah, this is like fucking two middle of the road-ish type teams with real deficiencies in their game. And that was the second quarter. And I don't generally tweet. In fact, I rarely tweet, but I just felt at halftime, I just sort of wrote something along the lines of our energy and work rate has been first class, but we all know this ain't it. We all know this ain't it. You know, our skills going inside forward 50. And to be really only a small margin in front. And full credit to the Gold Coast Suns. They were pretty plucky in that second quarter. And, you know, they hung in there. But, I don't know, you can't dominate a game like that and not have the reward. You really can't. And I just felt, oh, fuck, this is like just a bit of an ugly performance by us. A dominant but ugly performance. But then it just opened up after half-time. We made a few adjustments. I think the move of pushing Harry further up the ground just isolated Charlie a little bit more. And I thought that move was really good. The traditional centre-half forward of Harry. And we just blew them away, and we really flexed our muscles. We really did. And we just shut. But right then in that second half, right up until I suppose the last 6 minutes of the game, we suddenly looked like a finals team, a real finals team. And they looked like a team that are relatively good at home and dangerous at home, but they're just not ready. They're just not ready at all. Question marks will still remain on us though, because we have to travel and all that type of stuff. But I think the real positive was we did flex our muscles. It was a mature performance, other than for the last, say, 6 minutes of the game, which was a little bit frustrating considering that could have been a 10-goal win, but it ends up being a 5-goal win. So the things I liked. To me, the speed of the game for us was really good, and aesthetically we looked good. In fact, probably the best we've looked for the whole year, apart from that patch in the second quarter. I don't know. I looked at this game and thought, geez, we're handballing a lot, but it was productive handball. I'm not quite sure if that was the lack of pressure, the real genuine pressure from the Gold Coast Suns, compared to the pressure we've faced in the past. But I didn't feel like we were clean. And for the first time in a long time, we weren't handballing to players under pressure, and there was a willingness to get the ball moving quickly by hand and then release by foot to players in better positions. And the speed of that looked good. It looked good. And to be able to score so productively on the back of that. So it wasn't all just, okay, as much as we were dominating in the midfield and winning clearances, I think in the end of the day, we won the clearances out of the middle and won the quick clearances out overall, but lost the hit-outs. We weren't necessarily just scoring from those from the dominance out of the middle and from stoppages. We were actually scoring from our back half with chains of play set up by really creative handball and releasing players. And it was like, sometimes I wish Sam Walsh would handball more, because I think his kicking at times can be a little bit, I think a little bit sort of non-productive. But once we get that handball game going, we look at quite a damaging football team, but against a Gold Coast Suns, you know, where the pressure may have been a little bit down. I thought that the move of Cincotta, which I picked up straight away. That he was starting on a half-forward flank. As soon as the ball was bounced, he went straight to Tuke Miller. Thought we got on the front foot with that. We didn't allow Tuke Miller to, even though if he wasn't going to do a hard tag on Walsh or Cripps, it just stopped him from, he was thinking about Cincotta, what he was doing. They weren't necessarily blocking Cripps or putting a lot of work into Walsh. And he shadowed Miller for the whole game. So it wasn't like we looked at Miller and thought he's their most dangerous midfielder, because you probably think he would go to Noah Anderson if that was the case, you know, particularly his work on the outside. But it just put them off. It put them off because the one bloke that could put the physicality, the real physicality, because of his history of being a run-with type player, is like we thought, no, we're going to get on the front foot here. Cincotta only had like 7 disposals. So it's not like he is a midfielder. And it was felt like a hard tag or a hard shadow. God, that's fascinating to see how that's going to pan out next week against Port Adelaide, or on Thursday night against Port Adelaide, if we keep going with that. I don't feel like Cincotta's got a really big engine. He looked gassed at times, but he worked his ass off to keep up with Miller. Maybe it drifted off late in the game once the game was over, and once we got on top in the midfield, and it became too hard for them. But yeah, I liked it. It was something a little bit different, but for not 1 minute did I think Cincotta was in there to be a ball winner and to use maybe his explosive pace. So for that to really work, or to be really productive, I'd actually like to see Cincotta win a bit more of the ball than just 7 disposals. Can understand that if he's going to lock down on a small forward and he wins only 7, but if you're going to go into the midfield, yeah, good move. Going to be interesting to see. Williams' forward was great, really good to get 4 goals out of a small forward, where that's been a real down sort of position for us this year, other than say Owies. Yeah, that we will need a bit more sample size with that. He's a bit of a messy player at times, but he can be freakish, and he showed that. I'm looking forward to seeing how that pans out as well, like that. And I think you know, the performances of a couple of our younger defenders, you know, Lockie Cowan and Brody Kemp, was really, you know, was really positive, particularly Cowan. And Ollie Hollands, his role on the wing was outstanding with Akers. I thought that's the best our 2 wingers have played in a very long time as a tandem. I will say, though, that I did read quite a bit from supporters who was saying that that's the end of Marchbank. We should just play these 2 kids now. And I don't believe that for 1 minute. And as much as Marchbank can be frustrating, he's easily a better option than both of those players if his body's right. He showed that in the finals last year. So to just say now that let's just forget about Marchbank, maybe forget about Marchbank beyond this year, but we're in this to win it, aren't we? It was only 2 weeks ago that young Cowan had 4 disposals against Melbourne and was dropped. Now, admittedly, he comes in against a weak Gold Coast Suns and plays extremely well. The same with Brody Kemp. But let's just chill a little bit with that. I think for the future, it looks okay. But for the now, I'm not counting out Caleb Marchbank at all. TDK was outstanding against Wits. Although Wits won the hit-outs, it wasn't like he was like bullied in there. He was so good around the ground with his link-up work, and He just helps. And I know the sample size at the moment is in favour of the scores from turnover and how important that is for us. But I think it's 5-zip, I read somewhere, for TDK. When he plays as a sole ruckman, it's 5-zip in our favour. And when Pitnet and TDK play together, it's 2-4. But let's have a look at the opposition when TDK plays by himself. North Melbourne, bottom of the ladder. Richmond, second last. Suns, outside of the top 8. Lions struggling this year. And Freo outside of the, or just outside of the top 8 as well. So, yeah, I like it, but I'm not saying we should play both at all. I'm just worried about whether the TDK can go a whole season without being managed or rested, because he plays he's a fraction, he's still pretty young, and yeah, he plays a pretty taxing game in regards to his work rate and his running. So he will need a rest at some stage. And it's going to be fucking fascinating to see whether we go back to 2 ruckmen at some stage. Anyway, the thing is, we get to see that. We get to see that once again this week against Port Adelaide. TDK as the sole ruckman. So that's the wrap, guys. Great performance, great win. Comprehensive, clinical. Biggest positive for me was what it looked like, the way we played, the balance. But fuck, the thing that makes me excited the most, and I'll repeat, is we get to see whether any of this stacks up against Port Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval. And let's reassess it come the end of that game on Thursday night. Let's quickly go through these players, guys, as I usually do. Akers, 13 kicks, 13 handballs. Actually felt he used the ball more by hand than foot. 401 metres gained. Such a super consistent footballer. 4 tackles. Yeah, thought once again he was great. Boyd, I didn't think it was a great game by Jordan Boyd. It was a couple of times his ball use was a little bit off. There was one there in the centre of the ground where the ball came out to him and he had a chance to just have a little bit more time, and he bombed the ball and it was turned over. I think they got a goal from it. He's coming along quite nicely. Didn't think it was an A-grade game. Can't really comment on Carroll. Came on late. It will be interesting to see what we do with Jack Carroll this week. Chincotta mentioned his game, his role on Tuke Miller. Cowan, outstanding. I think this kid's going to be good. Like there's no doubt I think he's going to be good. But essentially, they're second-year players. You know, they're second-year players. Him and Hollands are second-year players. But he's a big body. He's a big body. And I think I mentioned a few weeks back, I want to start to see this kid who came into our football club. It's a bit of a hard nut, but also a runner and a dasher. I think he's starting to build that confidence, which is exciting. And he looks like he's got a strong body. Cripps, outstanding. Led from the front. Absolutely outstanding. 13 clearances. I think he had 10 clearances at half-time and was rewarded with a goal late in the game. Charlie had a great tussle with McAndrew. Wasn't it just a highlight? Wasn't it just a highlight to see those Sudanese boys? I tell you what, they are freaks of athletes, and I love watching them play. And then you go and watch the game on Saturday night with the youngster from GWS, Lee Galea, I think it was. He took that mark. I mean, they're just brilliant to watch, and we're going to see it firsthand. Galea on Thursday night. Yeah, I love watching him play, but I thought Charlie was pretty good. Ended up kicking 4. TDK, 25 touches, 10 clearances, 27 hit-outs. The only thing he didn't do was hit the scoreboard, but he was involved in so many links through the middle of the ground. Fantasia, I thought it was probably the most composed and strongest he looked. A couple of nice kicks, 10 touches, didn't hit the scoreboard, but play him again against this old side. Let's see what he's got. I can't see Motlop coming in, and he looked well off the pace in the time he spent on the ground in the VFL. I don't think he only had 5 touches. So play him again. Play Orazio again. Let's see what he's got against his former club. Lockie Fogarty, good to see him back. Only had the 2 tackles, but I thought he was pretty productive in regards to the amount of ball he had. 16 disposals, just adds that. He just has that concentration level, you know, that willingness to work really hard and a selfless type player. Hewitt, like Kennedy, they sort of get under the guard when Walsh and Cripps are so good. They just play a sort of a role which is reliable. Yeah, he thought he was okay with 20 touches. Elijah Hollins had moments, kicked a goal, drifted in and out of the game. I think he's got a big future. But he's still learning his way against his old club. Got a bit of spunk about him. Mentioned Ollie's game. Thought he was really good. Best game of the year so far. Kemp does some wonderful things. He does some wonderful things, and I think his ball use is good, but there is the ugly with him. But I think he's getting better defensively. I really do. So I think it was a positive performance by him. Matthew Kennedy, thought he was good as well. But these are the guys we've spoken about in the past against the really good teams with speed who seem to be exposed. So have good games against, you know, a midfield like Gold Coast Suns, which is based around contest, really hard contest. So it's going to be interesting to see how Kennedy, Hewitt, Cripps, to a certain extent, go against the fleet-footed, you know, Jason Orfantis, Rosie, Butters, because they're quick. They're quick. Mitch McGovern, he was great. Fuck, some of his marking was just A-grade. Harry, loved his game. Particularly his third quarter. Newman, good. Owies, yeah, a little bit quiet, but, you know, he's kicked the 1 goal from 11 disposals. Sarge just worked into the game. Great to see him get through that game with no reoccurrence of a hamstring injury. That's always the worry, but he only had 196 metres gained. It was almost like, let's get him through this. Walsh, huge after a quiet one against Sydney. A split, 16 and 16, 32 disposals, only 3 clearances. Wiedering, I thought at times he had his hands full with King. King was okay, probably easily their best forward. Lukosius didn't fire a shot. And Zachy Williams, 4 goals from 15 disposals and a real live wire in our front half. Look forward to doing a preview, guys, of our big clash, round 12 clash against Port Adelaide at Adelaide Oval on Thursday night. Leave some comments below. Tell me how you're feeling. One, about the game, what did you like? And secondly, how you're feeling about this game against Port Adelaide on Thursday, which will be a huge test. Speak soon.